everybody. My name is Dante Cotton. I'm a graphic and apparel designer. I'm going to be going over the safety embroidery instructions for you guys today. We'll be working on this melco machine. I'll show you guys how to set it up, all the functions of the machine, the safety features, and the software. The first thing you want to do is you want to do some daily maintenance checks, especially if you're the first one using the machine for the day. A lot of the maintenance the staff does for you, but you still want to do these couple checks before you get started just to make sure your designs come out smoothly. So what you're going to do is, here is your rotary. I'm going to take this out here. Here's your bobbin in there. I'll show you how to hoop that in a minute. This is going to be your pin where your oil is. If you open this up like so, you'll be able to see if you just press lightly on the button, little dab of oil comes out there. So right here on this silver part, the silver lip is where you're going to put your oil. So if you press this little button here and just rub it around there, you want to get that nice on time. And then each of these holes here, you're going to place a drop of oil for each one of your needles here at the bottom. So again, this is your bobbin. I'm just going to place this one back in the machine, and I'll use a spare one to show you guys actually how to hoop it here. So when you're placing it back in, you want to get it nice and in this hook here. Slides in like there and locks in place. Now, when you're hooping a new one, a few things you want to pay attention to. One, make sure you have this little pigtail here. That's what's going to keep the bobbin in place for you when you're using the machine, so just make sure that's there. Also be careful with these, because if they drop, these break pretty easily and it'll have to be replaced. So when you're placing a new one on there, first you want to find the end of your thread. Get that loose. And when it's coming off, you actually want to make sure it's pulling clockwise. And when you're placing it in here, slide it onto that ring there. I'm going to look for this groove right here to slide it into. So you're going to take it and pull it through this loop here. After you pull it through there, you're going to pull it back around this way. And after you get it behind that little loop right there, that's when you wrap it around this. And there you go. So after you've done all your maintenance, your next step is to understand how this control panel works. Once you get a full of this, you'll be good to go. You also have some controls in the software that you're using to do some of these functions, but I'll go over these as well. So this top button here, this is actually your trace button. So once you have your design loaded, it'll be able to trace the outline of your design so you can make sure it's lined up properly. And if you hold this button here, this is actually your loop button. So if you press this at the same time as your trace button, your machine's actually going to move. And once you've done that, the next control is going to be your needle chains. So for whatever reason you're working manually and you need to change the actual needle number that's selected, you hold this button down and either press the minus button, it'll go down one, press the plus button, it'll go up one. This center button here, this is actually for centering your hoop. So if you press this hoop button here and press that, if it's off a little bit, it'll recenter just like it did. And these are all just your directional buttons for whatever process that you're using. This button here, if you're running the machine and for whatever reason you have to actually stop your design, this will actually cut the thread for you. There's nothing running right now, so they just did a little job for you. These are your step forward and step back buttons. So if you are in a place where the needle broke or anything like that, and you need to basically go over a space again, just hit this button and just get that aligned, and you'll be able to pick up where your design broke off at. So since there's a design already loaded into the machine, I'll kind of show you what it does here. So if you're at the end of the design, it'll go all the way to the end, and you kind of just jog it back to each step. So if you change colors, it'll also change the needle as well. The button down here toward the bottom, this is actually going to be your laser. So let's see if we can get this on there. So you can kind of see it on my hand right there. Just for you to get your design line properly, that's going to be your center port or wherever you see it in the artwork on your design. Once your design is already set up and everything, the start button right here, just hit that. It'll start running the machine there. If for whatever reason something happens where your needle breaks or anything like that, the machine is actually intuitive and it stops it automatically. But you can also press this button here if you need to stop it manually. This here is your emergency stop. 9 times out of 10, you won't have to use it if you just hit this button right here. The regular stop button, you'll be perfectly fine. But if for whatever reason that's not working, then you hit this. It presses in, and if you need to reset it, you actually just twist it and it'll pop back out for you. And you may have seen earlier that the machine was already on, but if for whatever reason, if you come in and it's actually off, your on-off switches are going to be right here on the side. Once you flip it, you let the machine kick on. Might do a little jog. Give it a couple seconds, and then you'll be able to handle it. So the next thing we're going to go over is your threads. So each of these spools is actually numbered here. You'll be able to see each one of these. It's important to pay attention to these because they'll correspond to your machine in the software. So we'll go over that a little bit later. And if you need to change any of your threads, we'll go over that next. And we actually have a selection of threads here. Most of these are already by Madeira, so they fit the machine properly. Some of the spools are larger like this one here, where you just drop it down to the bottom. If you have a shorter spool like this, then you'll need this little adapter so it just rests in there in order for it to reach the proper height. If you want to bring in your own thread, just check in with the front desk and check in with one of the technicians just to make sure it's corresponding with the machine. So the next thing we're going to go over is actually changing your threads and placing new threads on if there is one missing, like one here. So what we're actually going to be doing is we're going to take this thread right here and we're going to switch it out with this spool. I'll show you how to do that process. So first thing you're going to do is you're just going to grab one of the scissors that are down here, and you just want to give yourself enough leeway in order to place the new one on. Makes the process of changing colors a little bit easier for you. So once you have enough give, just go ahead and snap that like that. You can pull that spool off. So after you get that off, take your new spool, drop that on there like so. Other thing is these are actually adjustable with the height, so if you need to pull it up slightly in order to get that thread through there, you can do that. And what you do is you just take your old thread out like so, and you have your new thread, and you tie it together. And what I do is typically put 2 knots in there, and I'll show you why in a second, just to keep this tight and not coming loose when we're running it through the machine. And you're just going to double check it when you pull it. It's not coming loose there, and you'll be all set to do that. So again, when you're corresponding with this, we just changed the number 1. So we'll move down here. You also see the number 1 there. So when you're changing your thread, just going to pop up this tension wheel here. If it's already run all the way through the machine, you can grab it as far down as possible and start pulling it through. And when you're pulling it, you'll see the thread go through this top part here. Keep pulling it, you'll see your string coming through. And you'll see it come down there. So when you're hooping the machine, just follow this line of the thread that you're replacing, and it'll show you how to actually get this set up properly. So when it's going through, you'll see it go through this metal part here, go down this first hole here, it'll go around this pole, back up through this hole here, still on number 1 if you get lost, so in case you need that corresponding number there. It'll go through that hoop there, and it'll come back and go down that bottom hole. Once it gets through there, that holds the thread there, keep coming down. It'll come down through this final hole here, and then this is where it runs through the needle. So if you had it not big enough, it won't actually go through. You'll just end up taking that old thread out like that. You can go ahead and trash this because you won't be able to use this anymore, and then we'll go over how. All right, so once you got that through there, you got your new end of your thread and your needle. So if you look here, there's going to be a little hole. You just have to feed that through there, just like any typical sewing machine. And I actually have a knot there, so I'm actually going to cut that off so I can get it through. So this is actually going to take some practice to get done, but once you get that hole there, kind of just feeds it through and pull it through the other side, and then you're done. If you're having trouble doing it by hand, sometimes what you can do is you can kind of get this close here, and there's always going to be a set of tweezers for you to be able to use and get it through there. And if you can't reach it from the back side, just grab the tweezers, pull it through there. Also make sure it doesn't get snug on that tooth there, otherwise your thread will just keep coming out and you have to keep rethreading it. Get it through there like so. Looks like this actually went through. Yep, so we'll pull that out there, just make sure there's no loop there, and you have it threaded. So once you get it all the way threaded, you want to make sure you drop this tension wheel down, keep that tight. It's very important that you do that, because if it stays up during when you're running the machine, you actually get a lot of thread and it'll jam the machine, and then you'll have to go through a cleanup process. So the next process we're going to go over is using an empty slot, if there is one available, or if your string comes loose, how to get that resolved for you. So what we're going to do is we're going to take one of these smaller spools, since we have that adapter there, and just drop it on top. And you're going to take your thread here and just get this started down the hole. Just enough there. What you do is you take compressed air to get it through the rest of the machine to get yourself started. There should be some in the lab already. If not, just checking with the front desk or a technician, and they'll be able to help you out with this. And what you'll do is you'll just take this and just spray it in there. And keep spraying. It's going to go through this tube back here, and you'll see it come out through that slot. And it pop out there. I'll just hit that one more time for you, just in case you missed it. So you see that thread shaking. So after you get it through there, you're going to grab that thread from that slot, and you're going to start feeding it through those same hoops. So it goes through this top one here. Pull that like so. And it's going to go 1, 2, 3 through these slots. So again, you go down the back hole here, comes around, grab it from the bottom, goes underneath this pole here. And it's going to come back up through here. And you're going to feed it through here, right through that arm. And then once you do that, it's going to go down that back hole. Rotate that through. So once it comes through there, it's good enough. Slide into that felt there. And again, your corresponding hole number 3, you just feed that through the bottom. Go through there. and then you loop your needle again. So next thing I want to mention are these arms right here. So once you've gone through the whole process of making sure all your threads are in the right place and threaded through the needles, you're basically at that point where you can start setting up your design for embroidery. So these are your arms where you connect your hoop, and I'll show you how to do that now. Over here, we have the different size hoops for your different designs. I'll go over that when we talk about the software, but depending on how big you want to make your design, you'll be able to use one of these. So these are also marked when you're using the machine. So you'll see a 12, 18, so on for the different size hoops. These are for the centimeter for the diameter of the actual hoop. When you're putting it on the machine, you have this little groove here. You always want to make sure that's on the right side and facing towards you. This little clamp here is going to be on the bottom, and they're actually going to slide under these two arms here. So once you've done all that, you're going to slide that under that plate, slide that under that one, and you're going to keep pushing until you have clip on both sides. That way you know it's in there good. And when you're taking it out, you're going to lift it, and on each side, and slide it back out. So next thing you're going to go over is actually preparing your hoop. So you'll have your fabric. This is your stabilizer. Some people call it backing, and your two parts of your hoop. So what you want to do is you want to take your stabilizer. That's going to be underneath your fabric. So you're going to set that on top of your hoop. You're going to take your fabric, put that on top of your stabilizer, kind of press that down, and then you'll take your top hoop, kind of find that center there, and push down on it. You want to make sure that you got your fabric in there nice and smooth and tight, so that way you don't get any snagging when you're running the machine. And that's pretty much it. So once you get that on there, you'll see this back side here. This is your tension here, so if it's a little loose, just want to make sure that's on there good enough so it doesn't fall off when you're running your machine. And you see it tight on the back side and tight on the front. So next up, after we get through all of that, we're going to go over preparing your design for embroidery. So we are in Design Shop right now. It's going to be this little icon with the DS. Once you open that, it'll bring you to the screen here. So we'll just go over some basic functions. So we'll go to File, and we'll just open a design that we already had done here. So you have a few different file types that you can actually import. So if you have an AI file, you can bring that in. Also, if you have an EPS file, you can bring that in as well. But you also have the ability to use JPEGs as well if you need to import that and bring that in. So I'll just show you what it would look like if you bring in your AI versus your EPS. So we'll start with the AI file. We'll click on that. So this is a multicolored design. When you bring it in here as an AI file, it just looks like a black object. Once you click on it, you'll see the different parts, and you'll be able to color it as you need. You'll be able to do that in here if you need to, but it also breaks it up over here. So let's do a quick color change so you can see that there. Let's pick some random colors. So 3-color design, you'll see all that here. Once you have your design imported, it'll look like this if you do an AI file. Let's close this out and do an EPS file. Open. And you'll get this little pop-up when it's a EPS file just saying that the complexity needs to be simplified for the software. Just say okay, it'll import fine, and you'll see it coming like this with the colors that you designed it with. So once you have your design in here, you'll just click on each part of your design, and you're going to convert it for stitching. So over here, this is your graphics list here. If you turn that on and off, you'll see the background of your graphic go away. And the same thing for your vector list. If you turn those on and off, it'll do the same thing. So once you have your graphic selected and you see these dots around it, what you want to do is you have a few ways to actually do this. These are your tools here. I'll go over all these real quick. Here is display your selected hoop. So if you want to make sure your design fits within that hoop, you click this button here, it'll show your hoop. Next button here, this will be your design origin. If you click that, you turn that on and off. These are your access points to make sure it's in the center. If you need to see that or not, you can turn that on and off. This will be your grid. You can turn that on and off if you don't need that as well. This button here is showing your stitches in 3D. I'll go over that after I convert the artwork. Hide your graphic, so individually versus clicking it, you just hit that button to turn it all off. Hide your stitches, so after you convert it, you'll see that option there as well. Next one will be your toggle connectors. These are kind of automatic. This is something that I want you to actually look up on your own because it's kind of a detailed tool. Just trying to go over the basics so you get familiar with it. Same thing with these wireframe points. Not going to go over those tools. Tie in and tie offs, again, something that you would need to look at to get a further understanding of, but definitely something important when you're creating your design. Center your design, hit that button there. If it's off center for whatever reason, let's see if we can just get it to real quick here. Center it back to the point that you have. So this is your graphic that is centered. Let's go back. And those are pretty much your main buttons here. So again, once you have this selected here, the button that you're actually going to press is convert. So it's taking that graphic that you have and converted it into stitches, and you'll see it pop up down here as design. So that was our first color. And you'll have all different types of options in order to change your stitch pattern based on how you need it to look. It does a pretty good job of predicting that automatically, so you don't have to do too many adjustments, but I do recommend doing a test run just to make sure it looks how you want. So after you have that selected, I'll select the center part, do the same thing, convert that, top part, convert that as well, click that. So after you have all that done, again, if you go up here and show stitches in 3D, it'll give you a good example of how your design is going to look. So this design is actually set to the 15 centimeter hoop. We actually prepped the 12, so I'll show you how to change that if you need to make that adjustment. So under tools, you click this here and go to hoop setup, or if you're a person that uses the shortcuts, Control H opens it up for you. And you also get a diagram of what hoop size it is, and it'll tell you here. So hoop name, you want to click that. You see the round 12 centimeter, and we're going to click on that. It'll show you the smaller hoop. This isn't the exact design of the hoop that we have, but this will be the one that you'll use. And we'll go over some other options. If you're using one of the larger hoops, you'll see those diagrams. And if you have your hat that you're setting up for, I believe it's going to be this one. Yep, so it's going to be that one. It doesn't have a diagram for it, but if you click that, that'll be for your hat setup. We'll go over that after we go over this first part. So click that here, click apply, changes the hoop size to what you need it to, press OK. Close that, our design still fits, so we're good. Next step we're going to do is just import it into the Melco software, which is here. Make sure that's open, otherwise you'll get an error. So that's going to be this program when it's open. And when you go to File and Machine, click Load Design, it'll pull your design over like this, and then you'll do some more steps in this software. So once you import your design, you're going to do the same check that we just did. So right now selected for 18 centimeter hoop. I'm going to change this to the 12, which we're going to be using. And again, our design still fits, it's in the center, so we're good there. Looking at our artwork, it doesn't have the colors that we had before, but that's okay because it's based on the colors that are in the machine up here, so they're corresponding to that. So next thing we're going to do is just show you how to adjust those colors, which is going to be color sequence. So you open this up, this all corresponds to the colors that we have set. We have a 2-color design down here at the bottom. Let's clear out all the colors that are already selected now. And let's say we have orange and yellow up there already. So if we click the number 1, which is our orange, we're gonna go up here, find an orange that we have set. We have that set to number 6. So we're going to put the same corresponding color here on the panel. So number 6 here, and it'll add it to your list as your first color. Same thing for your second color. So you put that yellow, look for a color that you want here. We use this for now. That's going to be number 15, and you put number 15 here. After you do that, you're going to click apply, click OK, and now your design's back in the colors that we had before. And same process, right now it's in flat stitches. If you want to turn it on to 3D, click that, and you'll just get another look at your design there. And like I said before, you have options of using the machine functions from your software. So I'll show you those, how they look. This is going to be your trace design. So that star button on the machine, if you press that, it'll give you a warning saying the machine is about to move. You press OK. And your machine traces your design. Applique, if you're doing that, that's a function for that. If you need to center your hoop, I don't think it's going to move because it should be centered now, but if you press that, same warning message, and it'll center itself. If you need to return to the origin of the design, if it already started, there's a button for that. Press that. Again, you get that warning. And it's going to go back to the first color of the design that you're using that we set over here. If you need to reset your design, it's going to be that button there. If you need to trim immediately, it's going to tell you the same thing. And it will trim your threads there. Once you have all that set up, 2 things you want to check is your tension, which is going to be here. They have a guide that you need it set to. For flat materials, it should be 8 points. For heads, it should be 11 points. And you also want to check your speed. Typically, if it's my first time running the design, you want to keep it at a lower speed. I normally run it around 700 or so. I wouldn't recommend running it any lower than 600. And for flat surfaces, your max is going to be 1200 stitches per minute. And for heads, you don't want to go anything above 900. Those are going to be for more complicated and intricate designs to get through them a little bit faster. This is pretty simple, so we can run this at a slower speed. Also run at a slower speed in case anything happens with my threads. I can catch it easier, save my material, and I can go back south. You also have some other functions here if you need to rotate your design, or anything like that, or if you need to center your design. So after you have that all set up, run the machine. So after you go through all that, you're going to take your fabric that you have hooped already, slide it into the machine. This is an open fabric, so typically doesn't get caught in the way, but if you're doing a closed fabric like a shirt or something like that, you want to make sure your fabric isn't all caught under here and that it loops to the outside. So again, I'm going to make sure this is on the right side. Push these under the locks here, push that back, make sure the fabric isn't catching at the bottom. Slide that back until it clinks. Make sure it's in there good. Make sure that's not in the way. And we're all set. So again, you have your functions over here with your trace. You always do that just to make sure it fits inside the hoop. And once you have all your checks done, you start the machine. That's done, you can go ahead and take that off. Take out the clips. And you're going to remove your ring. Now, depending on what type of backing you use, you can either just pull this away. This looks like this is just a pull away. Or if it's a cutaway, you'll have to use some scissors to tear it off. And then there you go. You'll just clean up your stitches on either side if you need to, but you're all done. So the last thing we're going to go over is how to hoop a hat, in case you need to do that. So we have an adjustable hat. These are pretty much easier to do, and this will be where you hoop your hat at. So your sweatband, you actually want to pop that out like that, and it's going to go under this clip right here. You already have your backing on there, so you slide your hat on like so. Get that sweatband under there. Make sure it's underneath all the way around. It's on there tight. Once you got that on there good, I'm actually going to take this clip here, and you see these teeth, it's going to follow the brim of the hat. So you're going to get that to go all the way around, and then there's going to be a little clip on this side here. You're going to hook that underneath of that, and you're going to pull it tight. And once you have that on there, just to make sure it's a little bit more stable, they have these clips here. There's two poles on the back. I'm going to pinch one on one side, put that on there, and do the same thing with the other side. Pinch that in there, and then make sure your machine is set up to do the hat, and you're all set. So next thing you're going to do is you're going to convert this in order to be able to do hats. So you're going to take your arms off here. These bolts back here, you want to get those adjusted. So these are hand tightened. So you're just going to unscrew that. Unscrew this one. And you're going to do the same thing on the other side. So your next step is you're going to take this cup off down at the bottom. So this drops down. There's also a little screw that unloosens it. And just slide that off like that. Place that there. And this little rod, you're going to slide that in right where that slid off at. So right in that part. Now if it doesn't slide in all the way, that means these screws are too tight. But you want to make sure this goes all the way to the back until that stops. And then again, hand tighten these. Back one, and keeps your machine in place. And then you get that rod on there, slide this part in for the hat. So it goes over this part and through this middle rail. See if you can get that lined up there. And it's going to sit on top of these two parts here. And the same screws that you took out, you want to make sure those are aligned. Drop these in and hand tighten these. It may take a slight adjustment to get it to catch. And tighten that, and the same thing on the other side. This pops off like so. This is your hat here. So obviously you can't fit it on that way. So you're gonna have to turn it to the side, slide it on there, and then twist it. Looks like we're gonna have to slide this back a little bit. A little more. Once you get that on there, these clips here, you're going to make sure those lock with your hat. And you actually have 3 clips. So once it snaps into place, it's tight like that. Can't get it off. In order to get it off, press each clip, pop it off, twist it, comes back out. All right. And as far as your artwork for your hat, like I said before, you're going to adjust your rim for that. So tools, hoop setup, around. It's going to be your CCF. Apply. Okay. So this is your bounding box for your hat. What you have to do for your hat is you actually have to flip your artwork around because your hat is facing the opposite direction when it's stitching. So you want to make sure your design's in the right way, otherwise your design will be upside down. So we're going to flip that and then we're going to be able to do it. So after you flip your design, it's going to be the same process. Again, we don't have to adjust this because it fits into the border, but you go to File and load to the machine. Now it's in the opposite direction. You have to change your hoop again. It's not quite center, so again, we'll just use this button here. Center hoop. And there you go, it's inside the box and you can run it. So this is the entire workspace for your hats that you have to work with. You have almost 270 with the design as far as how far you can go. As long as your design fits inside this box, this is how much you can stitch. And after you do that, check the same process, make sure your colors are in the right place, make sure you adjust your tension here. So for again hats, you set that to 11. Make sure your speed is at the proper speed and you can start it. So as far as material types, you can do a lot of different materials. Like as you can see, this glove is a leather. This is more of like a canvas material here for that design. Obviously, you can do t-shirts and all that type of stuff. You can do leathers. If you have any questions, please check in with the staff. Let them know that you're trying to do a specific material. They'll let you know what works with the machine and what doesn't work with the machine. Other things you want to check in with the staff is as far as any troubleshooting. If you have any issues with the needles or they need to be changed, let the staff know that because there are specific needles that need to go into the machine. We want to make sure this is working optimally and working for you to work properly for your designs. You don't have any snags or anything like that. So those are your basics on how you use your machine and get your design started. If you have any more questions, feel free to reach out to the staff. You can go to the website at openworksbmore.org and you can submit your questions there. Thank you for watching today. Have a good day.